I'm Andy. I'm one of the co-founders of Seismic and our Chief Community Officer. So I get the great pleasure of helping to deliver events like this, where we try to bring together our clients, our network, our partners, our wider community in order to share experience and information, and hoping to help others accelerate their own sustainability journey. Seismic, we are, as a group, an international team of sustainability experts, and we're on a mission to help businesses to prosper by enabling them to become forces for good in the world. We help our clients in a variety of ways, from helping them leverage the B Corp framework as the backbone of their sustainability framework. We help companies work towards B Corp certification. We help companies develop broad ESG and sustainability strategies. And we help our clients on their environmental impact, net zero, science-based target initiatives, as well as communicating their impact in a genuine and authentic way. We just celebrated about 2.5 years at Seismic. And in those 2.5 years, we've had the great fortune to support a variety of organizations. I think we've advised about 150 businesses on a one-to-one basis in that time, from all sizes, sectors, geographies, from B2B, B2C. And we're going to have the opportunity to hear from a few of our wonderful clients here today. Our agenda for our time together today, we're going to hear from my co-founder and Seismic's Chief Impact Officer, Amy Bourbeau, who's going to share an introduction to B Corp. She's then going to share with you why we at Seismic feel that B Corp is one of the best frameworks out there to build your sustainability journey and strategy off of, and share some tips on how to B Corp. And then we're going to have the great opportunity, a real treat, to hear from a few of our clients and friends from Lily's Kitchen, Dash Water, and Climate 17, who are going to share their firsthand experience of taking an organization on a B Corp journey. Amy's going to lead a panel with them, and then we'll have opportunity for question and answer at the end. So please do throw your questions into the chat along the way as they come up. And with that, I'm going to turn it over to my co-founder at Seismic, one of my two co-founders, and our Chief Impact Officer, Amy Bourbeau. I had the opportunity to meet Amy about 7 years ago when I was looking into B Corp for the organization I was a part of at that time. And I was really trying to do my due diligence and get a sense of, is this a framework that we can apply, or is it just kind of a flavor of the month in the sustainability space? I had the great fortune. I've learned so much from Amy then and over the years. She's got a unique ability to take complex technical tools and concepts and just make them really simple, accessible, and engaging. So it's a great opportunity to hear and learn again today from Amy. Amy, over to you.
Thank you so much, Andy. That's very generous of you. But yeah, pleasure to be here today. Thank you all for coming and allowing me to talk about my favorite thing, which is B Corp. So very happy to be taking you through a bit of an introduction to it, what it is, why you would do it, how you can go about certifying. And let's jump in. So I think the first place to start is kind of, what is B Corp? And you can describe B Corp in different ways. I think probably many of us think of it as a certification, but also what we really feel passionately about at Seismic and like to highlight is that it is, before a certification, it's a management tool. So it is a online tool framework that you can use to measure and understand and ultimately improve your sustainability performance. We'll talk more in a minute about that framework and how you can use it and what it consists of. But there's almost 250,000 companies around the world who are using this tool to measure their impact. So there's a huge amount of value that you can get from that before you even start thinking about certification. But if you do want to think about it, it is a certification, and that's for those companies that not only want to measure their impact and improve their impact, but they want to hold themselves to account. They want to meet a high standard. They want to verify that they've met that standard, and then they want to be able to share that with the world and become a part of a community. And ultimately what B Corp is about and what it exists to do is to be a movement that changes the way that we do business. It's a movement that brings together people and encourages them to use business as a force for good. So kind of changing the current format of capitalism that we're in, which is around shareholder value, the most value for the fewest people, and changing it towards a system that values stakeholders as well as shareholders. Very importantly to call out, the B Corp community and movement absolutely values profit and shareholder value, but sees that people and planet can and should go alongside profit. And ultimately, if we do consider and prioritize people and planet, most of the time that leads to a higher profit anyway. So it's really a win-win scenario. So moving on, I think I briefly mentioned, but it's really important to call out the community. The B Corp community is a really lovely thing to be a part of. So there are over 7,000 B Corps around the world. They operate across over 150 different sectors in over almost 80 countries around the world, all different sizes of organization, etc. But they're kind of pulled together and combined by this, united by this kind of shared view of a better way to do business. But there's lots of great ways that you can get involved with the community. So in the UK, we have over 1,500 B Corps. We are the fastest growing B Corp community in the world, which is pretty cool. And actually, for those of you based in London, London is the B Corp capital of the world. We have the most B Corps per capita. So it's a really active community here in the UK and in other parts of the world as well. But there's all different kinds of ways you can get involved, from the Beehive, which is an online platform where you can connect with other B Corps, to working groups, like there's a plastics and packaging working group, or a regenerative agriculture working group, or one that focuses on HR, etc., where you can kind of come together with, either peers and even competitors, or people from totally different industries, but people who have the same kind of shared challenges and goals, and we can come together and learn from each other and go faster that way. And there's also fun things to do as well, like going to bee socials and summits and places where you can just connect and meet lovely people, learn from each other, and even have a dance on the dance floor. B Corp loves a party, so it's a happy, warm, open community. So moving forward, I think thinking about why would we do this, apart from the fun parties that B Corp likes to throw, there's many different benefits to becoming a B Corp. One of the most kind of consistent and tangible benefits that we see is on the element of attracting talent. So 70% of candidates who are going for jobs at B Corp mention B Corp in their interview process. We know that millennials want to work for purpose-driven, values-aligned organizations. And we see that reflected in not only the rate of talent that applies to B Corps, but also the quality. So there's kind of stats that show that companies with high ESG performance attract a better quality of candidate and employees who stay longer as well. So B Corps have a significantly lower attrition rate than non-B Corps, which is great for having a wonderful workforce, and also great for saving money on attrition issues. And then looking at investors in equity as well. So investors are increasingly facing pressure and recognizing the positive elements, the attraction of investing in either B Corps or supporting their portfolio companies to become B Corps. So we work with a lot of private equity firms, a number of whom are actively encouraging their portfolio to certify, some of whom are actually mandating that their portfolio complete the B impact assessment in order to measure their impact. So we see it a great way to attract investment, also to attract the right kind of investment that's going to be kind of aligned with your values. Moving on to customers. So customers are expecting more and more from the organizations that they buy from, and that is both B2B and B2C. So I think oftentimes people, there's a bit of an assumption that the B Corp movement is more for consumer-facing brands, but actually that's not the case. It's for any type of company in any industry. And actually there's about 2/3 of the UK community is B2B service-based organizations versus 1/3 that is B2C, consumer-facing. But either way, whether it is individuals purchasing for themselves or whether it is procurement teams, there's an increasing pressure to source from brands who are meeting high standards of social and environmental performance. People are becoming more savvy, and the ASA, the Advertising Standards Agency, is cracking down as well on greenwashing and false claims, etc. So going through a process like B Corp helps to make sure you're credible and you have something to kind of hold you to account and verify your some of your claims. And then we see, from the elements of recruitment and investors and customers, etc., these all kind of roll in to make better, more healthy organizations. So we see growth of B Corps at a much faster rate than the national average. So 15% growth rate versus 1% in the UK. And all of this leads to more resilient organizations ultimately. So it's a, as I mentioned before, a bit of a win-win-win. It's kind of, why not? So now onto the how of how you become a B Corp. It is a, well, we'll be hearing from our panel shortly about the process and their experiences with it. We've gone through the process as well as Seismic. We are certified as a B Corp, and it's a great process. It's all about the kind of the journey, but we'll take you through it. So it's built around the B Impact Assessment, or the BIA, which is that framework that I mentioned before, that is the really valuable, one of the very valuable elements of B Corp. So the B Impact Assessment is a free online tool. It's available to anybody. If you don't have an account yet, absolutely recommend going and creating one. We can share the link in the chat of where you go to create an account. And it is super comprehensive. So the assessment is essentially a long list of questions, about 150 to 250, give or take, no pressure, across these 5 different areas. So you've got governance, which looks at your kind of mission, vision, accountability, financial practices, ethics, etc. Workers, which looks at all of the different ways in which you impact and support your employees. Community, which looks at diversity, equity, and inclusion, charitable giving, social element of how you engage your supply chain, how you involve your local economy. Then the environment, which looks at water, waste, greenhouse gas emissions, biodiversity, and how you kind of manage those elements both within your own facilities, within your products, if you make a product, and within your supply chain. And then customers, which looks at all the different ways that you impact and can impact and protect your customers. Now, having said that, the assessment is adaptive. So it's tailored to companies based on your size and sector. So for example, Seismic, as a service-based organization, will see a different set of questions than Innocent Drinks or Dash Water, who are organizations who both manufacture or sell, product-based companies, and therefore they'll see more questions about the environmental impact of their supply chain than an organization like Seismic would, for example. So it's tailored to you based on that. Also important to call out that it is kind of consistently being updated. So around every 3 years, the version of the assessment gets updated, and that is to keep it in line with evolving standards. The next version is set to launch late 2024, early 25-ish. It's not exactly nailed down yet, but now is a good time to kind of get started, so you can ideally certify on the current version. before the standards kind of kick up a notch. And then the thing to call out is that it's meant to be inspiring, and it's meant to challenge you. So becoming a B Corp, being a B Corp means something. It means that you've met a high standard. It's not meant to be easy. If it was easy, it wouldn't mean as much. So, you can be prepared to kind of find it maybe a bit daunting, and to not be performing super well the first time you go through the process. That's completely normal. The point here is to inspire organizations to improve their impact and understand their impact. And there's kind of tools within the process that can help you with that journey. So it's based around the B impact assessment. Now what? So if we can just move on to the next slide, please. Thank you. So there's kind of 3 steps. You got to meet the standards, you got to verify that you meet the standards, and then you're certified. Of course, there's kind of more elements to it. So on the next slide, what we talk about when I say meeting the standards is there's 2 elements here. You've got one, which is the performance element of the standards, which is that every question on the assessment is scored, and you need to reach a cumulative score of at least 80 points in order to certify. So most companies, when they start the assessment, are not at an 80-point standard. The average score for companies is about 50 points when they do the assessment. And so usually there's a process for improvement that needs to be undertaken, which is where you kind of use the assessment as that framework. You pick out what are the areas that we want to improve on, and then you set about implementing those improvements into your organization until you get to the stage where you're at or above 80 points. You absolutely don't need to stop at 80, by the way. Keep going and go for as much impact as you like. And also we recommend going for at least 85 points. So you've got a bit of cushion should your score fluctuate during the review process, which is very normal. The other element of the standards is the legal requirement. So in the UK, there is a requirement to amend your articles of association to include a commitment to considering all stakeholders as well as shareholders when you're making decisions on behalf of the organization. So once you've done those things, you've met 80 points, you've amended your articles of association, you can move forward to the next stage, which is where you get verified. So you submit your assessment when you are over 80 points and you're confident with your score, and then you will enter into a verification queue. And if we can just go into the next slide, please. Thank you. So you submit your assessment. There's currently a queue to certify. It's about 4 to 6 months. That's going down all the time, so don't worry too much. And when you get to the front of the queue, you're assigned a standards analyst who will request a number of pieces of evidence from you to verify your performance. And this will be a combination of uploaded and verbal evidence through conversations, back and forth kind of process with B Lab, where you're proving your performance. It's important to call out here that a lot of companies do not succeed on their first go. So 52% of companies who submit their assessment are not successful on their first attempt. It is absolutely possible to do it and get it right the first time. We're very pleased that 100% of our clients have been successful, that we've guided through the process on their first attempt. It's just a case of kind of knowing what to look out for, how to manage that process, not being too, just being very tight, very secure in the way that you answer and the way that you approach the process. And then finally, once you've gone through that, you've submitted everything, you've verified everything, hopefully you've verified that your score is over 80 points, you then become a B Corp, which is incredibly exciting. You're welcomed into the community, you pay your first annual certification fee. So up till this stage, it's been the only price that you'll have paid is a £250 submission fee. And then, yes, so you welcome into the community, you pay your first fee, and then you celebrate, you kind of take it and make it your own, both internally and externally, sharing the wonderful news of being certified. And the work really doesn't stop here. It's only just beginning. It's really important to make sure that you then embed B Corp into your day-to-day workings as a business, your business as usual. But you can make that fun and you can make it really valuable and beneficial to you as an organization. And what you need to also bear in mind is that you're going to need to recertify every 3 years, going through that same process to prove that you're still meeting B Lab standards. So that has been a very quick kind of whistle-stop tour through the what, the why, the how of B Corp. And I'm going to now have the pleasure of handing over to our wonderful panel that we have with us today. So very happy to introduce properly our lovely panelists. So we have Jack Scott, who is the co-founder and CMO at Dash Water, who are a lovely client. These are all lovely clients of ours. We're very lucky. Dash was founded in 2017, and they have the mission to reduce food waste and create healthy, delicious soft drinks using wonky and unwanted fruit. And you can see an example of that wonky fruit behind Jack in his background there. I'm sure you all would recognize their brand. They're very delicious drinks. We are also joined by Stef Allegrini, who is the Marketing and Partnerships Manager at Climate 17. So Climate 17 are quite a new addition to the B Corp community. They certified recently with a very impressive score, not to give it away, Stef, but and Climate 17 are a specialist talent acquisition services agency for organizations within the renewable energy and sustainability sector. So they really know their stuff. And finally, we are joined by Katie Richards, who is the Head of Impact and Sustainability at Lily's Kitchen. Again, a brand I'm sure we're all very familiar with, but Lily's make proper food for pets. And they were actually a founding UK B Corp back in 2015. They were my first client. And also Katie is quite a unique person in that she has she's in the club of the very small elite club of people who have worked for 3 or more B Corps so far in their career. So we've had the delight of working with Katie at 2 other of our clients, as well as Lily's Warp Snacks and Innocent Drinks, leading their sustainability journeys. So very lucky to be joined by these 3 fabulous people. Good morning, Jack, Stef, and Katie. Thank you for joining us. And I'm going to hand over to you now. If each of you could just give us a quick kind of run through your company's B Corp journey to date, please. It would be lovely to hear in your words.
Shall I jump in first?
Great.
Morning, everyone. Great to be here, and thanks, Amy, for the introduction. So I'm Jack, one of the co-founders of Dash Water. Our mission is to celebrate wonky fruit and make delicious, healthy drinks. We started the business back in 2017. Both Alex and I come from farming backgrounds. I come from an arable farm in Shropshire, and this is where we saw the real problem of food waste. And our B Corp journey started in 2020 in February, which you'll remember was the time when COVID started. And we got certified in October 2020. So it was about a 7-month process. And we've just gone through our recertification process. So we've been B Corp for 3 years, and I'm a massive advocate. And Seismic have helped us all the way through, and recently with our recertification process of getting all of the team involved, which has been fantastic. So perhaps that's a good intro, and look forward to chatting more in a minute.
Thanks, Jack. Over to you, Stef.
Hi, I'm Stef, and I'm the Marketing and Partnerships Manager at Climate 17. So yeah, we are an international renewable energy and sustainability recruitment firm, and we have the pleasure of working with very many companies within the sustainability and renewable energy space, helping them to find the right talent to help them grow and meet the, let's say, the ever-growing needs of these markets in terms of talent. So yeah, as Amy mentioned, we are quite new to the B Corp community. We only recently certified as a B Corp organization with 117.6 points, which was, we were really thrilled. So the journey for us was extremely exciting. I don't want to give too much away because obviously we have a few questions. We're going to go through, a bit more details. But we had a very, very engaged team and board of directors who wanted to get this certification done as fast as possible, really, because this was the next step in a company's journey that made sense for us, especially because for us, it's quite important. Accountability is super important as a business in general. So making that statement by becoming a B Corp and joining a community where you can really, truly show practically that you are making a difference was key. We decided to work with Seismic, which was the best choice ever. And here we are today. So this is the journey, more or less.
It's very kind, and I promise we didn't ask Steph to say that.
No, but it's true,
Thank you. Katie, over to you.
Yeah, sure. Morning, everyone. As Amy said, I'm Katie. I head up impact and sustainability for Lily's Kitchen. And also, as Amy said, we make proper food for pets. The business was launched in 2009, and we were one of the founding UK B Corps back in 2015. We actually have a very long history, as Amy said, with Seismic and even pre-Seismic, having worked with Amy for that long. We're just gearing up for our third recertification, so the fourth time we've been through the process. I actually only joined the team in April, but one thing I would say, also having worked at a few other B Corps, which Amy mentioned, is that really what struck me being part of the Lily's Kitchen team is how much B Corp in those years since we have been certified has become part, and I guess synonymous with, our values as a business. People really talk about, and I'm sure this has evolved over time, but people really here talk about how much it means to be a B Corp. It's become a real connector of people to the brand and why they work here. So yeah, I obviously I'm very happy to get into more of the details on that as we talk, but long history is a really important part of our brand and values as a business. And yeah, gearing up with Seismic for our third recertification in 2024. So thanks for having me.
Thanks, Katie. So nice to be chatting to you. And actually, I'm going to grab you while you're here. We obviously I ran through before a number of the kind of benefits of B Corp and engaging in your ESG journey, but it would be great to hear from you, what are some of the kind of biggest benefits that you've specifically found to Lily's being a certified B Corp?
Yeah, as I say, I think one of them is this, how it connects everyone in the team to kind of a shared purpose. And I know that lots of businesses talk about purpose now, and it kind of is a bit almost ethereal, but actually for us being a B Corp, it's really been very directional. Every time we recertify, we've wanted to improve our score. That comes from our leadership team. So it's a great engagement tool internally. It's also been a really, really good customer facing thing for us. And I mean that in both our end customer, so the people that buy our pet food, the end consumer obviously probably doesn't really mind. I'm sure the pets don't know that we're B Corp certified, but the customers who buy it do. And so again, that speaks to our values and says that we care about the things that we say, and actually that we mean what we say when we say it. And as you mentioned in your upfront, Amy, as there is this kind of cracking down on how we speak about the impact world, having the ability to fall back onto something like B Corp to say, no, we really mean it. It's a really strong certification, and it allows us to evidence that we mean what we say. And then I would also say attracting top talent. Almost everyone, if not everyone, talks about the fact that we're a B Corp as a reason why they want to work for Lily's Kitchen when they come and are interviewed for us. And then also just being part of the community. You've already talked to it, Amy, but the ability to connect to like-minded businesses. Happy to talk about this in a bit, but we've actually also been part of, our people team have set up a mentoring scheme across lots of different B Corps, and being involved in that has been amazing because it allows our team access to mentorship from other like-minded businesses, and even just in the sense of it's great to connect with people on a kind of values level, but also a lot of our service-based businesses now, consultancies, our PR agencies, they are also certified B Corps, which I think speaks volumes to how much we know how difficult it is to go through that process, and it makes sure that we're aligned with those businesses that we're hiring for services.
Definitely. Yeah. It's kind of like a shorthand, or that you're somewhat values aligned, that they've been through that same process, and it makes it easier and more appealing to work with somebody, for sure.
Exactly.
And thank you, Katie. And thinking about that process and going through that process, and as we've spoken about, it takes a lot of work. It takes commitment. 52% of companies don't succeed on their first attempt. There's obviously a lot of learnings through the process. Stef, having been through it quite recently, could you kind of share some of the key lessons that you learned through Climate 17's certification journey?
Well, the first thing is that, as you said, this is a process. So it's not about an end line where you're, you got the certification and it's done. It's a process where you better yourself gradually and throughout, from the start to when you get the certification and beyond. So that's a lesson, because it's something that you need to be aware of before you even start. It's not about getting a badge, basically. So that's quite important. And then also never assume, because you might think you're really good at something as a company, but actually when you start your certification process, you realize that you can do so much better and you can do so many more things, which is, it's exciting actually, because it really proves to you that there is, you can just become the best version of yourself. And even then there is something more you can do as a company. So as an example, both our environmental and social impact, we didn't really realize how much more we could do as a company, which is awesome. So yeah, that's quite eye-opening. And then even generally across the business, it really helped us to plan for the future and to make so many changes that impacted the entire company. I think these are the main lessons that we learned about how the process can really help your company on so many levels, and it's really worth it, really.
I think it's such good things to call out, and I love the piece around it helps you to realize what more you can do, because I think partly it's a bit daunting, but also partly it's one of those cliches, you don't know what you don't know. And especially for service-based companies, sometimes when you're like, we're just an office, we just turn up and come to work, what more could we really do? And actually there is, more. And I think it's that helps to kind of open up your mindset and helps to inspire you and ask those questions and find some answers. So I love that positive approach that you've taken to it, and it's reflected in your score. Not that it's about the points, but the points reflect performance, and it's fun to get a nice score. So well done. Jack, just bearing in mind, so the audience here today are people probably, well, we've seen kind of reflected in what people said when they joined. Quite a lot of the audience are in that stage of decision making and figuring out, is B Corp right for us? Is this something that we want to do? How did you, as a founder, it's a huge decision for you and your organization. How did you know that B Corp was the right framework for Dash?
Yeah, so as mentioned, our sort of founding mission was around food waste and celebrating wonky fruit to infuse our drinks with. I think it was then about, going deeper in our sustainability journey, and becoming more accountable to that. And B Corp gave us a great framework to be able to do that. I think there's obviously also within the food and drink sphere some amazing pioneers such as Lily's Kitchen, Innocent. So we always looked up to those brands, and it was about doing business like good all round. And those Innocent's a great example of that, and Lily's Kitchen, where you're not just sort of good in one area, you're trying to do your best in every area. And B Corp again, it's a great framework for that. So it's not just around sustainability, as you know. So that it was something that we really wanted to do. I think at the start, it was about creating a product and getting something that people loved and getting it on shelf. And that should always be the focus, to get a business that's up and running. But then once we knew that we had something, B Corp was the next step for us, and all of the benefits that bring it. So that was a bit of behind our decision making on B Corp.
Thank you. Yeah. And how is that then kind of reflected into the organization? It would be interesting to hear, Jack, and all of you actually, how once you've certified, how you've then kind of gone to embed B Corp into your process as an organization, into your kind of team and decision making and everything.
Yeah, so me and the head of finance did the process. It was perhaps when we were only about a team of 10, and I think that just to start on the process, that's obviously very important, that people who are doing it really know the nuts and the bolts and the values of the business, and you're able to move forward, and you've got to be very accountable, and attention to detail is huge, and committing, and that's what was so good for us. It was not good, but the COVID period gave us the time, I think, just to take a step back. Even though there were, loads of different issues, we met every week for 3 months, and we were able to get through the process. In terms of, once we've been certified, I think for me, because we don't have a head of sustainability as of yet. So it's really about getting the whole team involved in the process. So, and Seismic have helped us with this. So it's getting people into small groups and getting them to concentrate on particular questions which are associated with their roles at Dash. And that has been amazing for buy-in of the B Corp process, and for us to obviously better our business in all areas. So it's about, I suppose, delegating the responsibility to the whole team, and not just on the one person, whether it's the founder or the head of sustainability, to implement that. Because if it's going to really work, everyone needs to be engaged and living, what you say on the B Corp. So hopefully that's helpful.
I was just going to add on that, actually, really interesting, because obviously I am a head of impact and sustainability. So in a maybe slightly bigger business, even I could not do this without putting those kind of structures that you're talking about in place, Jack. And especially as your business grows, I think quite a lot of businesses, it was even the same for Lily's Kitchen, certify when they're much smaller, and you just get everyone that needs to be there around the table, and they answer the questions together, and it's a much simpler process. If I could give one piece of advice to any business, and in all honesty, I would even look back and say, had we done this, it might have been a bit easier for me next year. Really building those day-to-day principles into how you operate, because there are aspects of the BIA where you can get bigger points, but actually where you get the majority of your points is those tiny actions that just happen every day. And when you're going through the process, that can feel a little bit disheartening, that they might feel like they're quite big challenges or big things to kind of change the way that your business works. But actually, once you're in that process of that's how your business operates, it becomes much easier. So I would view this as a kind of almost business change process, rather than a certification that you gear up to every 3 years. Because if you do it like that, it just becomes really, really challenging every 3 years. So yeah, I totally agree with what you say, and echo that, Jack, on building those individual roles and responsibilities across the business.
Great advice, Katie. Thank you for that. And before we hand over to the audience to hear some questions from the audience, Jack and Stef, it would be lovely to hear your pieces of advice actually to organizations who are on their journeys or about to embark on their journeys. Stef, would you like to go?
Yeah, sure. Yeah. So the first thing that I'd like to say is to definitely be open-minded. So again, it's about improving your company and improving the way you do things. So it's certainly a very good idea to just go in thinking this is going to be a process and not expect too much of it from the start, you know, in a good way. And then planning is key. I think that's something that really, really made sense with us, which is why, you know, touching again on working with Seismic really helped us, because it can be daunting at the beginning. You're faced with all these things and you need to look through as a company. So having somebody who advises you and helps you to understand what steps to take is can be really, really life-changing. It was for us, at least. And also when you get to the process and all of the questions, don't be daunted by the language, because it seems more complicated than it is. So it's really about taking it bit by bit, step by step, and compartmentalizing depending on, you know, taking one thing at a time type of thing, without jumping into all of it at once. That's what I would say.
Very good advice. Yeah. Sometimes people say, I looked at the assessment and it was this wall of questions and I was just overwhelmed. And it's like everything in life, bit by bit, chip away. Yeah, love that. Thanks. And Jack?
Yeah, sorry, I sort of jumped ahead earlier, but I think, yeah, perhaps looking at it as a way to improve your business, not this sort of wall of questions. So, you know, seeing real value in the process to make, you know, the business, your business, better. And I think for me, someone who isn't very organized and hasn't got a very good attention to detail, it's about making sure that you're made accountable and doing it with someone who does have those skills, because it's very easy to drop once something else comes forward. But if you see it as a bit of a challenge and have lots of planning, as you say, Stef, then it's something that you can break down bit by bit. And I think I remember it was just about starting. I suppose it's like starting a business, isn't it? You just have to do it. And then that's normally a good way of approaching it. But problem solving as well. So it's sort of someone the people who are doing it are, you know, good problem solvers. You can't be derailed by small objects in the road. You've got to be able just to sort of carry on with the process, and problem solving, I think, is a key skill for the process. But again, it's looking at that higher, the end goal and what that could mean to your business, which has been hugely helpful for us, both internally and externally.
Amy, can I add one extra, just very practical piece of advice? One thing I found really useful in our business is the BIA online should be like the place where you go for all of the scores and to make sure that you're updating it. But you can download an Excel format, which you can make look prettier than it comes out, because it comes out in a very ugly format. But it has all of the questions, and then you can assign each of those questions to someone in your team. They can then filter, and from like a practical management perspective, we found that very helpful, because I can then basically say, here's like the place that everybody can go to see what their questions are and what their team is accountable for in the run-up either to a recertification. And Fee, I can see that you asked where you find that. If you go onto the online BIA, you can just click, there's like a download button. It's on the questions filter page, I think, though
Yeah.
probably Seismic would be able to tell you better exactly where it is, but
That's
that would be
exactly.
my really practical piece of advice that has made it really, really much easier to manage internally, I think.
100% agree. The download is a lifesaver. Fabulous. Thank you so much. I know our audience has some questions to ask, so Andy is going to share some questions that the audience has for you guys.
Yeah, great. Thanks, Amy. And thanks, Katie, Jack, and Steph. Really loved a lot of those insights. For a couple things that stood out to me and related to a question here around, just doing business good all around, not part of one part of your business or your product or your service, but just general. I think we've heard that a number of times. And then really as a business change process, and we heard process a number of times. And I think to get the most value out of this, that's the way to look at it.